Hello dear learners, welcome to Andhra Pradesh Commissionerate of Collegiate Education LMS portal. I am Dr. Sechi Devi, working as lecturer in zoology at SKR and SKR Government College for Women, Autonomous Kadapa. In this video lesson, let us learn the topic management of chicks in a poultry farm. First of all, let us begin with learning objectives. The learning objectives of this lesson are introduction and definition of poultry, definition of chicks, management principles to be adopted in a poultry farm before and after the arrival of chicks. Rearing of commercially important birds like chicks, turkeys and ducks is called as poultry. Poultry are kept in most areas of the world to provide an acceptable form of animal protein. During the last decade, many developing countries have adopted intensive poultry production in order to meet the demand for this form of animal protein. Poultry in the industrial system are housed in confinement with the aim of creating optimal conditions of temperature and lighting, and in order to manipulate day length to maximize production. Generally, four types of birds like chicks, growers, layers and broilers are commonly selected for farming. They are to be managed carefully in separate housing systems depending on their habits to obtain better profits. These birds express different types of behavior and hence different principles of management have to be applied. And what is a chick? Chick is a newly hatched young baby bird. Chicks do not possess a well-developed thermoregulatory mechanism. The day-old chicks do not possess the insulating feather coverage to protect them from chillness. The body temperature of a chick is 107 degree Fahrenheit, which is always more than the ambient temperature. It may result in the losing of body heat to the environment without any proper management if we keep them in a poultry house. So, a source of heat is given by natural brooding or by artificial brooding up to 4 weeks of age. So, brooding is the care exerted in the first few weeks of chicks. Now, let us see the management practices to be taken for the chicks before their arrival into the farm. Brooder house where we are keeping the chicks and its surrounding areas along with the equipment should be thoroughly cleaned and disinfected. Litter should be evenly spread to a depth of 8 to 10 centimeters. Usually in a poultry farm, the floor of the litter is covered with husk sawdust is called litter. Litter always should be dry because wet litter releases ammonia and causes to the birds. And uneven litter restricts access to feed and water. That is why the litter should be spread evenly on the floor. The brooder is heated 1 hour before the arrival of the chicks. Because brooder generates heat from the bulbs arranged in them. In order to maintain the body temperature of the chicks, the brooder must be heated 1 hour before the arrival of the chicks in order to provide warmth to the chicks. The entire floor and side walls should be whitewashed with fresh limestone. Feeders, waterers, chick guards should be washed and disinfected in phenol, Lysol, and dried in the sun for a day in order to prevent the infections. Chicks should be transported to the farm as soon as possible and fed immediately. Spacing should be 10 birds per square meter, and generally a chick requires 2.25 square meter, thus preventing the overcrowding. The removal of spider webs, cobwebs and dirt are also very essential. So that means before the arrival of chicks, the entire poultry house has to be managed, has to be maintained very clean. Now let us see the care to be taken after the arrival of the chicks. Chicks are to be taken out from the box immediately to prevent dehydration as it results in mortality and reduced growth. For the first 7 days, a 23 hours of light is provided to help the chicks to adapt to the new environment and encourage feeding. So 23 hours of light is essential in the first few days so that the birds can adapt to the surrounding environment, that is to the new environment, and can feed easily. Feed and water along with vitamins must be given immediately after their arrival at the farm. Waterers and feeders are arranged in the brooder house to enable the chicks to reach the feed and water easily. And also a thermometer is placed in the brooder house to record and monitor the temperature inside the house between 40 to 41 degree centigrade. Chick behavior is the best indicator of correct brooding temperature. So, in order to maintain warmth inside the brooder house, we are providing the bulbs inside and we are also monitoring the temperature inside the brooder house with the help of a temperature. Weight of the birds must be taken on 7th, 14th, 21st, 28th and 35th days. Cool and clean water should be made available. A change in water consumption indicates feed issues or diseases. To provide water to the birds, 1 drinker per 25 birds to be maintained. Cool and clean water is also to be made available continuously. And inadequate water supply may lead to reduced growth rate. So that is why always clean, adequate water facility, that means waterers should always be maintained inside the brooder house. For the first 7 days, feed should be placed on clean egg trays, sack or on newspaper so that the chicks can see the feed and eat the feed easily. Feeders are introduced gradually to the birds. 1 feeding tray is provided per 25 chicks. Subsequently, 3 feeders per 100 100 birds are kept inside the brooder at a place free of water, sunlight and rodents. So initially one feeding tray is provided for 25 chicks and gradually 3 feeders are provided per 100 birds so that they can take the feed easily. Feed consumption of the birds is monitored once in 8 hours by feeling their crop. So whether the chicks are eating the feed or not, we should monitor by feeling the crop of the birds. Starter feed is given at the rate of 0.5 kg feed of crumbles or pellets per each bird for the first 2 weeks. Then grower pellet is given as feed at the rate of 1.5 kg per bird for the next 2 weeks. Feed with finisher pellets at the rate of 1.5 kg per bird is provided for the last 2 weeks. So that is how the feed ratio should be maintained for the chicks. Now you can see the slide showing the chicks surrounded by a chick guard. So chick guard is the protective mesh provided surrounding the chicks. This chick guard prevents the chicks going away from the brooder. So this brooder contains the bulbs hanging over them and the bulbs here provide warmth to the growing chicks. And here inside the chick guard you can also see the feeders as well as the waterers. Now let us see the further care and management to maintain the chicks in the farm. One important factor to be remembered here is the stress caused to the chicks. Chickens subjected to stress will not produce at maximum potential. Generally, stress in chicks is caused by noises from barking dogs and automobiles. This noise may frighten the chicks. So noise should be eliminated and the chick house should be free from any noise. Rats and predators disturb the flock besides stealing the chickens and their feed. So the farmhouse should be free from any rats and predators. As far as possible, the same person should attend the flock every day throughout the chickens' lives. Other than a veterinarian or an extension agent, no visitors should be allowed to enter the poultry house. Because entry of visitors, strangers into the poultry house may cause stress in the chicks. So that is why outsiders are allowed to view the flock through the windows. This practice not only reduces the stress but also the chance of introducing diseases in the flock. Daily routine should not be changed and the farmer should visit the flock at the same time every day. Vaccination stress cannot be avoided because vaccination is very important for the health management of the chicks. It cannot be avoided, but it can be reduced by following the right schedule and gentle handling of the birds. Flock should be allowed to move in the same house all through their lives. So they should not be shifted to other houses, to other rooms. So that should be avoided and throughout their growing period, the flock should be kept in the same house. Damp litter also causes stress in the chicks and may also lead to diseases. That is why this damp litter should be avoided. A dry litter should always be maintained in the poultry house. The damp litter releases a pungent smell of ammonia causing a stress. And it is an ideal medium for the growth of disease causing organisms. That is why litter should always be kept dry in the poultry farm. Entry of new chickens in the flock can also cause disease problems. That is why an uniformity is to be maintained in the flock. No new chickens should be allowed to enter into the should be allowed into the flock. Violent weather due to storms disturb the birds heavily. Hence, such situations can be avoided by partly covering the windows with shutters or mats. Air circulation for ventilation should be allowed and the window covers are removed as soon as the weather clears. So aeration is very important to the poultry farm. That is why immediately after clearing the weather or any storm weather, the window covers are removed from the windows. Very hot weather, changing temperature beyond 32 degrees centigrade can cause stress in the chicks. Over and above 37 degrees centigrade may cause the death of the chicks. So this should be taken care by appropriate ways. That is by providing proper aeration and by cooling the litter, we can avoid the harmful or increased temperature and heat inside the poultry farm. So to provide convenient temperature inside the house, we should maintain the thermometer and regularly check the temperature inside the house to provide good weather and atmosphere to the chicks. Cannibalism or pecking may also kill the other chicks. So one bird pecking the other bird is called as cannibalism. Here the cannibalistic birds or chicks are identified and isolated from the flock in order to avoid the death of the other chicks. Cockerels should also be isolated from the flock. Cockerels means young cocks which are disturbing the other hens, other birds should be isolated from the flock. Young male and female chicks can be kept together until the cockerels become sexually mature. At maturity, these cockerels should be isolated as they begin to bother the females as well as other birds, creating a stress condition in the flock. Cockerels are sexually mature when their combs and spurs show rapid development. And usually this will occur between 12 and 18 weeks of age. 1% of the bird mortality per month is acceptable in the farm. So 1% of the bird mortality is very common in the farm. Some birds die suddenly while the others show clear signs of a disease. Such diseased birds should be removed and isolated from the flock to prevent the spread of disease. A post-mortem examination of dead birds is carried out to identify the disease. If the mortality exceeds 1% per month, veterinary advice is taken immediately. This may be an early warning of a severe outbreak. Diseased birds or those who die of unknown causes should not be eaten at any cost. Their bodies must be either buried deep in the ground or burnt. For small flocks of 50 to 100 chicken or less, an isolation pen is used for the period of sickness. Isolation pen is the house or the area we are keeping the diseased birds. When the temperature exceeds 38 degrees centigrade, chickens may die of heat stroke. That is why the chicks should have plenty of shade, aeration and cool drinking water. Adequate waterers and buckets of water are provided to reduce crowding inside the poultry farm. Chickens in cages should be sprinkled with water. Deep litter itself can be sprinkled at mid-afternoon to increase evaporation and cooling inside the poultry house. So my dear learners, these are the care and management practices to be adopted for the chicks in a poultry farm. I hope you understood the topic well. Thank you for watching.